The sorry is real. That is the first thing worth establishing because everything that follows depends on understanding that this is not performed contrition. Not the managed, surface-level sorry of someone who has calculated that an apology serves a strategic interest. Not the sorry that is really just discomfort with consequences dressed in the language of remorse. The sorry the avoidant carries when they genuinely carry it lives in the interior with the specific, located, refuses to be managed quality of something honest. Something that arrived through the accumulation of evidence rather than through emotional urgency. Something that the management protocol has been working to contain and has not fully succeeded in containing. They are sorry for what the pattern cost you, not in the abstract specifically, for the particular hurt caused to a particular person who deserved better than the pattern delivered, and they want to contact you, not because contacting you would be comfortable, it would not be, not because they know what they would say, they don't, not fully. Not because the contacting comes with the guarantee of anything, it doesn't, but the wanting is real, sits in them with the specific persistence of something that has been present for longer than they have been comfortable acknowledging. Why the sorry took this long? The sorry that is real takes longer to arrive than people expect, not because genuine remorse is slow to form in avoidance. Because the architecture of the avoidant self-narrative makes genuine remorse genuinely difficult to reach. The narrative was, the leaving was necessary, the distance was clarity, the withdrawal was the honest recognition of what the avoidant needed. The self-sufficiency framework accommodated the leaving as a decision made from knowing rather than from fear. That narrative is not compatible with genuine sorry, because genuine sorry requires the acknowledgement that the leaving was not necessary. Was the pattern running? Was fear overriding love and producing loss that did not need to be produced? Arriving at the genuine sorry means dismantling the narrative that protected the leaving from being experienced as loss rather than decision. That dismantling takes time, takes the accumulation of evidence against the narrative, the gray persisting, the replacement not happening, the preferred configuration feeling insufficient, the pattern not producing what it was supposed to produce. Takes the specific, unglamorous, cannot be rushed process of the honest interior reckoning with what actually happened. The sorry took this long because the architecture it required dismantling was load-bearing, and now it has arrived. The sorry is real, the wanting to contact you is real, what the sorry actually contains. The genuine sorry the avoidant carries is not a single, simple feeling. Is several things simultaneously, and understanding what it contains matters for understanding what the contact, if it comes, will actually be expressing. It contains remorse for the hurt. The specific, particular, you deserved better than this remorse of someone who can now, with the alarm reduced by distance and the narrative dismantled by evidence, see clearly what the pattern cost the specific person it was visited on. This remorse is real and is directed at you specifically. At the particular injury of having been someone who loved genuinely and was met with the pattern rather than with the full capacity to receive what was offered. It contains something like grief for what was lost. The specific relationship between sorry and grief that characterizes genuine remorse. The regret is not only about what was done to you, but about what was lost for both of you. The future that was available before the fear overrode the love, the version of themselves that was possible in your presence, the specific register of experience that your particular quality of being activated and that the general resumption of life has not replicated. It contains uncertainty about what the contacting would even mean. The sorry is real and the wanting to contact is real, and neither of them arrives with a clear map of what contact would produce or what it would be right to ask for. The avoidant who genuinely wants to contact you is not carrying a plan. Is carrying the remorse and the wanting and the honest uncertainty of someone who knows they caused something and does not know whether contact addresses it or compounds it. It contains fear. The specific fear of the vulnerability of reaching, of making visible the wanting, of acknowledging the sorry, of being seen in the admission that the pattern cost something that mattered. The reaching requires the specific, acute, no-deniability vulnerability of saying, I was wrong and I know I was wrong and I want to say so even though the saying makes me visible in exactly the way the architecture was built to prevent. That combination, remorse, grief, uncertainty, fear, is what the genuine sorry contains, why the contact has not happened yet. The wanting is real. The sorry is real, the contact has not happened. The gap between wanting to contact and actually contacting is real and is produced by specific things worth understanding honestly. The vulnerability calculus is significant. Reaching out requires making visible things that the avoidance entire architecture was built to keep private, the acknowledgement that the distance costs something. The admission that the self-sufficient narrative was not the complete truth, the exposure of genuine remorse to someone whose response cannot be controlled or predicted, every element of that is threatening to the avoidance system. Not in the same way the original intimacy was threatening, the alarm is not firing in the same urgent, flee immediately way. But in the specific makes me visible in a way I cannot manage, way that the interior's privacy was always designed to prevent. The uncertainty about reception compounds this. The avoidant does not know how the contact will be received. Has no reliable model for predicting what you have become in the silence, what your current position is, whether the contact would be welcome or would arrive into a life that has genuinely moved on in a way that makes the contact an intrusion rather than an opening. This uncertainty is not irrational. You have moved. The silence was genuine. The life has been genuinely built. The contact would arrive into someone who is genuinely different from who was there when the distance was created. The avoidant cannot know exactly what that difference consists of, can only know that the configuration has changed, that the oriented, available, fundamentally pointed toward them version is not what the contact would find. And the not knowing what it would find adds its weight to the vulnerability calculus. The result is the wanting without the acting, the sorry sitting in the interior without finding its way to expression, the contact being composed mentally, repeatedly, without being sent. What the contact would actually say if it came. The contact, when it comes from genuine sorry and genuine wanting, does not arrive in the form most people imagine. It does not arrive as the complete, emotionally articulate, everything acknowledged declaration that the situation warrants. The avoidance facility with direct emotional expression is still limited. Has not been transformed by the sorry any more than the alarm was transformed by the recognition of what it cost. It arrives in the avoidance available language, which is oblique, which carries more than its surface suggests, which says something real while maintaining enough structure that the exposure is not total. It might be a message that references something specific. Something particular to your connection that only makes sense as the opening of a conversation rather than the completion of one. Something that communicates, I am thinking of you specifically, and this is the form that thinking has taken. It might be a direct but brief acknowledgement, not the full sorry that the interior contains, a version of it. Enough of it to make visible that something has shifted, enough to open a door without forcing anything through it. It might be a question, the specific, carefully constructed question that is really not a question at all but an invitation. That is really, I want to know if there is anything here. I want to know if the contact is welcome. I want to know whether the door is still present, or whether the genuine silence has moved you somewhere the door no longer exists. Whatever form it takes, the genuine contact carries the specific quality of something that costs something to send. That required the specific, genuine, against every instinct of the architecture courage of someone who has decided that the sorry needs to be expressed even knowing the expression makes them visible in exactly the way the system was built to prevent. What you do with it when it arrives. The contact arrives, the sorry is in it, however obliquely expressed. The wanting is in it, however carefully structured, and you are somewhere, actually somewhere, in the genuine, built through real investment life that the silence produced. The contact arrives into that life, into the person you have become in the interval. Into the self-knowledge and the groundedness and the clear-eyed discernment of someone who knows the difference between the sorry and the readiness, between the wanting to contact and the capacity to sustain what contact might open. What you do with it is not determined by the sorry being real. The sorry is real, and it is not sufficient by itself to determine your response. It is determined by the honest assessment of what the contact is carrying beyond the sorry, whether it carries evidence of genuine work on the pattern, whether the sorry is accompanied by the behavioral evidence of someone who has been engaging with what produced the sorry rather than simply feeling remorseful about its effects. Whether the reaching arrives from someone who is in a genuinely different position than the one who created the distance, not because the sorry is present, but because the work that the sorry can motivate has been or is being done. The sorry without the work is real remorse from an unchanged system. Is the avoidant genuinely feeling what the pattern cost while still carrying the pattern unaddressed? Is the most honest version of where they currently are, which may be the beginning of the work, may be the genuine motivation for beginning it, but is not yet the work itself? What you offer in response to the sorry, how much of your life's newly genuine direction you allow the contact to reorganize, how much of the genuine somewhere you have arrived at you make available for something that may still be the beginning of something rather than the evidence of genuine change, is yours to determine, from your actual position, with your actual self-knowledge. In genuine service of your actual life, the sorry is theirs to feel and to express, What comes next is yours to decide. From the grounded, self-possessed, genuinely somewhere place that the silence built, that place is worth protecting, even from a real sorry, even from a genuine wanting, especially from those. Because those are the things most capable of producing the reorganization of the life you built around the question of whether they are ready. And the life you built deserves better than to be reorganized around the beginning of someone else's readiness. It deserves to be lived fully by you now. The sorry is real. The wanting to contact is real. What 5,000 more words can add is the honest, grounded examination of what this moment actually asks from both people, in the specific texture of what genuine sorry and genuine wanting actually mean when they meet a person who has built something real in the silence. What the sorry does to the person who receives it. The genuine sorry, when it arrives, does something specific to the person receiving it. It lands differently than expected. The fantasy version of receiving a genuine sorry from someone who hurt you is clean. The acknowledgement arrives, it is received, something resolves, the hurt is validated, the love is confirmed. The story arrives at something that resembles a satisfying point. The actual experience is more complicated. The sorry lands in a person who has done real work, who spent real time rebuilding something that the dynamic drew down, who arrived through genuine, unglamorous effort at a place that does not require the avoidance acknowledgement to be valid or the hurt to be legitimate or the love to have been real. And the sorry, arriving into that place, produces something unexpected alongside the relief of being acknowledged, the awareness of how much was spent getting here, not bitterness. Not resentment in the punishing sense. The specific, honest, cannot be avoided awareness of what the interval cost, the real hours of real work, the genuine effort of returning attention to your own life when every habit of orientation wanted to return it to the avoidant. The specific, daily, small but accumulating investment in the genuine life that the silence was building. All of that was real. And the sorry, however genuine, does not give it back, does not restore the months or the energy or the specific version of you that existed before the hurt reorganized something in your interior. The sorry is worth having, is worth receiving honestly, is not sufficient to undo what the hurt produced. Both of those things are true and both deserve to be held without resolving one into the other. The difference between the sorry that comes early and the sorry that comes late. The sorry that arrives in the immediate aftermath of hurt, while the wound is fresh, while the loss is acute, while the avoidant is still in the early recognition of what the pattern produced, is a different thing from the sorry that arrives after genuine time has passed. Both can be genuine. Both can be real remorse from a real interior, but the early sorry and the late sorry arrive into different places in the person receiving them, ask different things, require different assessments. The early sorry arrives into someone who is still in the acute phase, who is still close to the hurt, who has not yet done the work of the interval, who receives the acknowledgement before the self-knowledge and the groundedness and the clear-eyed discernment that genuine time and genuine work produce. The early sorry is easier to be swept up in, easier to allow to reorganize everything, easier to receive as the resolution of the story before the story has been honestly inhabited. The late sorry, the one that arrives after genuine time, after genuine silence, after the person receiving it has genuinely built something, arrives into someone different, into someone who has the specific, hard-won, demonstrated through surviving self-knowledge that genuine work produces. That person receives the late sorry with more complexity, more honesty, more ability to hold both the reality of the sorry and the reality of their own built life simultaneously without resolving one into the other. The late sorry is harder to receive in some ways and is received more accurately. What the avoidant is actually asking. The contact that the genuine sorry produces, the reaching that carries the remorse and the wanting and the uncertainty and the fear, is asking something, not always explicitly, often not explicitly at all. The asking is frequently embedded in the oblique, deniable, structured for plausible retreat form that avoidant reaching always takes. But underneath the obliqueness, the asking is present. It is asking whether there is still something here, not asking for specific things yet, not asking for the relationship to resume, not asking for forgiveness on a timeline, not asking for anything that would require you to commit to a particular direction before either of you knows what direction is honest. Asking the prior question. Whether the door is still present, whether the silence has moved you somewhere the contact can reach, whether what was real between you is something that either of you is willing to investigate in the changed configuration of two people who have both been through the interval and have both arrived somewhere different from where they started. That asking is significant, is real. Is the most vulnerable thing the avoidance system will authorize in most cases, and it deserves an honest answer rather than a strategic one, not an answer calculated to produce a particular effect, not an answer designed to demonstrate how much you have moved or how little you need them or how effectively the silence has done its work. The honest answer from where you actually are. Which may be, yes, something is still here, and here is what I would need to see to trust it. Or, I am genuinely somewhere else now, and the door is not in the same place it was. Or, I don't know yet, and I need more than this oblique contact to know. The honest answer, whatever it is, serves both of you better than any strategic answer. Serves you because it keeps you in contact with your own genuine position, rather than performing a position for effect. Serves the avoidant because it provides real information, rather than the managed response that allows them to avoid the honest accounting that the contact was supposed to initiate. What genuine sorry requires from the avoidant. The sorry is real, the wanting is real. Neither of those things by themselves constitute what the situation actually requires. What the situation requires from the avoidant, not as a condition imposed from outside, but as the honest expression of what genuine remorse actually calls forth in the person feeling it, is specific. It requires the acknowledgement to be direct, not embedded in oblique contact that maintains deniability. Not structured so that the sorry can be retrieved if the reception is cold, not the sorry that arrives as a subtext while the surface contact pretends to be casual. The sorry that is genuinely felt deserves to be genuinely expressed, in language that says what it means, that acknowledges specifically what is being acknowledged. That makes visible the interior experience that has been present in the unguarded moments rather than continuing to keep it managed below the surface. This directness is genuinely difficult for the avoidant, requires the specific, acute, no retreat available vulnerability of saying something true in a way that cannot be walked back. The sorry stated clearly is a commitment to having said it. Cannot be unsaid, cannot be reinterpreted as something more casual if the response is not what was hoped. The avoidant who is genuinely sorry and genuinely wants contact needs to be able to say so in language that does not primarily protect them from the risk of the saying. That is the minimum that genuine remorse requires. It requires the sorry to be accompanied by honest acknowledgement of what produced it, not the therapeutic language of attachment theory, not the sophisticated framework of avoidant psychology. The personal, specific, this is what happened in me acknowledgement of what the pattern was doing and what it cost, not performed self-awareness. The genuine, somewhat uncomfortable, costs something to say honest accounting of what was happening that the sorry is responding to. This acknowledgement is different from the sorry itself. The sorry is about what you experienced. The acknowledgement is about what they did specifically, what the pattern produced in them and why, and what they understand now that they did not understand or acknowledge before. Without the acknowledgement, the sorry is an expression of remorse about an effect without engagement with the cause. Is the avoidant feeling bad about what happened without fully accounting for what made it happen? Which leaves the cause unaddressed and therefore capable of producing the same effect in the next iteration. And it requires, this is the hardest part, the part that the sorry alone does not provide, evidence of engagement with the cause at the level where the cause actually lives, not the stated intention to change, not the recognition that change is needed. The behavioral evidence, however early, of someone who has begun the actual work, a therapist being seen. A genuine, consistent engagement with the specific work of addressing the alarm at the level where the alarm actually operates rather than simply having more motivation to override it in high-stakes moments. The sorry without this is the beginning of the willingness to do what needs to be done, is not yet what needs to be done, and the distinction matters enormously for what the contact can honestly become, what you owe the contact. Nothing strategically, everything honestly. The contact deserves a genuine response, not a calculated one. Not one designed to produce a particular effect in the avoidant, or to demonstrate how effectively you have moved on, or to leverage the sorry into something that serves a strategic interest. A genuine response from where you actually are. If you're genuinely somewhere else, if the life that was built in the silence is genuinely more primary than the question of what this contact opens, then the honest response reflects that. Warmly, without cruelty, without the performance of having moved on further than you have or the performance of being more affected than you are. Simply honestly, from where you are. If you're genuinely still open, if the love is still present and the openness to something different is real, and the contact is arriving into someone who is willing to find out what genuine change might look like, then the honest response reflects that. Without rushing to reorganize the life around the contact before the evidence of genuine change has had time to demonstrate itself. Simply honestly, from where you are, the honest response is the only response that serves both of you, is the only response that keeps you in genuine contact with your own interior rather than performing for an audience of one, is the only response that provides the avoidant with real information rather than a managed presentation. Honesty here is not cruelty, is not the withdrawal of compassion. Is the specific, genuine, serves everyone gift of saying what is actually true from where you actually are. The question of whether to respond at all. There is a version of this where the honest response is silence, not strategic silence, not the calculated maintenance of no contact as a tool for producing a particular effect. The genuine, honest, from where you actually are silence of someone who has genuinely moved and for whom the contact does not open anything that serves the life that has been built. That silence is legitimate, is not cruelty, is not the withholding of something owed, is the honest communication of a genuine position. The avoidant who contacted you deserves to know if the door is not in the same place, deserves to receive the genuine response of the genuine position rather than a response calculated for effect. If the genuine position is, the contact is arriving too late, the life is genuinely elsewhere, what was real between us remains real and is not what organizes my present, then the silence that communicates that is an honest response, not the silence of someone who is managing the contact for strategic effect. The silence of someone who is genuinely somewhere else and for whom the silence is simply the accurate expression of that. The difference between strategic silence and honest silence is real, and the avoidance system, however much it has been through its own interval and its own updating, will feel the difference. Strategic silence has the quality of being organized around them, of being a decision about them, of having their potential response as its primary consideration. Honest silence has the quality of being organized around you, of being the natural expression of where you are, of having your genuine position as its only consideration. One is another form of orientation toward them, the other is simply being where you are. What this moment reveals about both people. The sorry is real, the contact is genuine, the wanting is present and the fear is present and the vulnerability of the reaching is real, and you are somewhere, actually somewhere. What this moment reveals about both of you is worth naming directly. It reveals that the avoidant has arrived at something. Not the destination, has not done the work yet or is in the early stages of doing it, but something, the recognition, the honest accounting, the genuine sorry that the recognition produced, the genuine wanting to express it, that is not nothing, is the beginning of something, is the first authentic movement in the direction of genuine change rather than the management of the pattern's effects. It reveals that you have built something, the genuine, actually inhabited, not performing life that the silence produced, the self-knowledge, the groundedness, the clear-eyed discernment of someone who knows the difference between the sorry and the readiness and the work that bridges them. That is also not nothing. Is the genuine arrival at a place that is more fully yours than any place you have occupied in the context of this dynamic. Two people, both somewhere real, both arrived at something genuine through different paths and different processes. What happens next is not determined by the sorry or by the silence or by the contact or by any of the psychological portraits that have been drawn throughout this body of work. It is determined by what both people do, the avoidant with the genuine work or without it, with the therapeutic engagement or without it, with the behavioral evidence of sustained change or without it. You from your actual position, with your actual self-knowledge, in genuine service of your actual life, not from the depleted position that the dynamic left, from the built position that the silence produced. The sorry is real, your life is also real, both deserve to be honored, the sorry honored by being received honestly rather than strategically. Your life honored by not being reorganized around a sorry that has not yet been accompanied by the work that makes the sorry into something that can actually be lived in. Both honors are possible simultaneously, both are what this moment asks from a person who has genuinely built something, and who knows not as an aspiration but as the lived, demonstrated, showed in the quality of the silence truth, that what was built is worth protecting, not from the sorry, for the life, the actual, genuine, completely yours life. That was always the point, and remains the point, now, the first days after contact. The contact has arrived, the sorry is in it, something has been opened. The first days have a specific quality that is worth describing honestly because it is frequently misrepresented, either as the beginning of resolution, which it is not, or as evidence that nothing has changed, which is also not accurate. What the first days actually are is suspended. Both people are in the specific, slightly disorienting experience of a dynamic that has shifted without having resolved. The contact was made, the sorry was expressed, the response, whatever it was, has been received, and now both people are in the space between the opening and whatever the opening becomes. For you, the first days carry a specific interior quality. The contact arrived into the genuinely built life, was received from the grounded, self-possessed, clear-eyed position that the silence produced. And now the life, the actual, inhabited, genuine life that the silence built, is continuing. The work is still there, the relationships are still there, the genuine occupation of your own existence is still ongoing, and alongside it, something new. The awareness that the contact was made, that the sorry was real, that something has been said that was not said before and cannot be unsaid. This awareness is not destabilizing if the life is genuinely built, does not pull the primary investment back toward the avoidant in the reflexive, reorganizes everything way that the old orientation would have produced, but it is present. Is a genuine new element in the interior landscape. For the avoidant, the first days carry the specific quality of having done the vulnerable thing and now waiting to discover what the doing of it produced. The contact was sent, the sorry was expressed, the reaching happened against every instinct of the architecture that was built to prevent exactly this visibility, and now the waiting. The specific, unfamiliar, cannot be managed away waiting of someone who has made themselves visible and does not control what happens next. This waiting is not comfortable for the avoidant, is genuinely outside the management protocol's ability to fully address. The protocol manages the interior, cannot manage what another person's genuine response will be. What both people are assessing. In the days and weeks following the contact, both people are assessing, not explicitly, not always consciously, but the assessment is happening in the specific, ongoing, shows up in attention way that genuine evaluation always happens. You are assessing whether the contact was the beginning of something genuinely different or the sorry seeking the restoration of the previous configuration without the work that genuine difference requires. This assessment is not hostile, is not the punishing withholding of warmth from someone who expressed genuine remorse. Is the honest, necessary, serves both of you evaluation of what the contact is actually carrying beyond the sorry itself. The assessment looks at specific things. Whether subsequent contact, if it comes, has the oblique, deniable, maximum plausible deniability quality of someone who expressed vulnerability once and is now retreating back to the managed distance, or whether it carries the specific, continued, willing to be visible quality of someone who is staying in the vulnerability rather than managing back from it. Whether there is any evidence of the actual work, not the stated intention to work, not the expressed awareness that work is needed, the behavioral evidence, is therapy happening? Is there something concrete and ongoing that addresses the pattern at the level where the pattern lives? Whether the avoidant is asking anything of you that would require you to reorganize the life you built around the question of their readiness rather than around your own genuine direction. These assessments are not demanding, are the honest evaluation that genuine self-possession produces. Are what the self-knowledge and the groundedness and the clear-eyed discernment of the interval make available and make necessary. The avoidant is also assessing. Is assessing whether the response, whatever it was, indicates genuine openness or genuine closure, whether something is possible here or whether the honest position of the person they hurt is that the door is not where it was. Whether what they felt in the sorry and the wanting to contact is something that has a viable future or something that is genuinely finished from your side, even if not from theirs. This assessment is less comfortable for the avoidant because it requires tolerating genuine uncertainty about something that matters, cannot be managed into a comfortable predetermined outcome. Has to be lived through with the specific, real-time, uncontrolled quality of something that depends on another person's genuine position, rather than on the avoidant's own management of the situation. What genuine openness looks like in practice. If you're genuinely open, if the contact arrived into someone who is willing to find out what genuine change looks like, who has not fully closed the door, whose life is genuinely built but genuinely not closed to this person, then genuine openness has a specific quality worth describing. It is not the resumption of the previous availability. Is not the reorganization of the built life around the avoidant's returned attention. Is not the old orientation reinstalled because the sorry was real and the wanting was genuine. It is the specific, grounded, nothing held in reserve openness of someone who is genuinely present in their own life and is genuinely willing to see what this is. From that position, genuine openness looks like receiving the contact warmly without allowing the warmth to pull the primary investment back to where it was before the silence built what it built. It looks like responding honestly without performing either more availability or less than is actually true. It looks like being willing to have the actual conversation. Not the oblique, deniable, surface-level contact that avoidant dynamics typically produce. The real conversation, where the sorry is received directly, where the honest position of both people is on the table. Where what is actually present and what is actually needed, and what the evidence of genuine change would look like are all addressed without the management that has historically prevented the actual conversation from happening. That conversation is the most useful thing the contact can open. Is the only thing that provides both people with real information about whether something genuinely different is possible. Is the alternative to the managed peripheral. This could be interpreted as casual dynamic that has been the mode of this connection. Genuine openness asks for the real conversation, not immediately, not in the first contact, but as the honest direction of where genuine openness goes if the contact is the beginning of something rather than a single gesture, what the real conversation actually requires. The real conversation, the one that genuine openness points toward, requires specific things from both people that are worth naming concretely. From you, it requires the willingness to say what is actually true about where you are, not the position you think will produce the best outcome, not the performance of how affected or unaffected you are, the honest truth of your current position, which includes what the silence produced in you, what the interval built, what you know now that you did not know before. What you would need to see not as a condition imposed transactionally, but as the honest expression of what your self-knowledge tells you genuine change looks like, before the life that was built could genuinely include this person in a form that serves rather than draws down what was built, which also includes, if it is true, the love that is still present. The specific, genuine, not requiring management love that does not disappear through the silence even when the orientation changes. If that is honestly present, the real conversation deserves to include it, not as the organizing principle, as the honest truth of what is also there alongside the grounded self-possession and the clear-eyed discernment. From the avoidant, the real conversation requires more than the sorry, requires the specific, personal, costs something to say honest accounting of what the pattern was doing, not the framework, the personal version, what the alarm actually felt like, what the management protocol was actually protecting, what the leaving was actually about as distinct from what the narrative claimed it was about. It requires the honest acknowledgement of what the hurt cost you specifically, not generalized remorse. The specific, particular, you deserved better acknowledgement of what was caused to the specific person who was most capable of seeing clearly and staying anyway. And it requires honest answers to honest questions about what is actually being done about the pattern, not what will be done. What is being done, the present tense. The concrete, behavioral, shows up in appointments and effort reality of someone who has begun engaging with the cause rather than simply feeling remorse about its effects. The real conversation, if it happens, provides both people with the information they need to make an honest decision about what this actually is and whether it is something worth investing in. What you actually want. Underneath all the assessment and the discernment and the clear-eyed evaluation of whether the sorry is accompanied by work, underneath all of that is something worth acknowledging directly, what you actually want, not what you should want, not what the healed version of you would want. Not what wanting demonstrates about your level of recovery or self-possession or genuine forward motion. What you actually, honestly, in the specific texture of your own experience, want. This is a question worth asking and worth answering honestly, because the genuine answer to it, whatever it is the most important piece of information available in this moment. If what you actually want is for this person to have done the work and to be genuinely different, and for something genuinely new to be possible between you, that wanting is real and deserves to be held honestly rather than managed into something that looks more evolved. If what you actually want is for the sorry to have arrived sooner, when it could have been received into a place that was still organized around this connection, rather than arriving now into a life that is genuinely moving in a different direction, that wanting is also real and is its own form of grief that deserves honest acknowledgement. If what you actually want is for the connection to be genuinely over in a form that both people have acknowledged rather than leaving it in the ambiguous, neither closed nor open territory that the sorry has arrived into, that wanting is also legitimate and also deserves honest expression. Whatever the honest answer is, it is more useful than any performed answer, more useful to you. More useful to the avoidant, more useful to the genuine possibility of whatever this moment is opening into. The honest answer to what you actually want is the beginning of the honest conversation that this sorry, if it is genuine, was always going to eventually require, not the managed, oblique, structured for a treat version, the real one. Between two people who have both been through something real and have both arrived somewhere genuine. That conversation is what the sorry was always pointing toward. Whether it happens, whether both people can be honest enough, present enough, genuinely, themselves enough to have it, is what determines what this moment becomes, and whether what it becomes serves your actual life. The one you built in the silence with genuine effort for genuinely good reasons, That life is the foundation. Everything else, the sorry, the contact, the real conversation, whatever this opens into is what builds on the foundation. Or it is not, and the foundation remains either way, yours completely, as it has always been.